Hello, good evening people. Thank you very much for joining me on the webinar this evening. I'm really looking forward to sharing with you about how to get through Easter, eating the things that you love, as well as feeling that you're in control of your health, and if you're trying to lose weight, then certainly in control of your weight as well. If we just do a little bit of housekeeping to start with to make sure everybody knows what's going on. And I will just get this next slide going. Excellent. So on your screen now, if I can do a little bit of a test, you should be able to hear me. And I guess in order to let me know that you can hear me, let's do a few little tests here. So you can either be using a telephone or you could be using the mic and the speakers from your computer. There's a little hands up icon here, and obviously if you want to raise your hand, you push this button and you can raise your hand for a question, and then you just type in your question here. Really happy for you to type in questions as we go, and I'll answer them as we go. As you notice over here, we've got that if you push the button once, then your hand is up, and you actually need to push it again to bring your hand down again. So can I have a little bit of a show of hands? Apparently in the webinar world it's called a silent round of applause, by showing if everybody can just click on their hands, and I'll see if I can actually see that. Can we do a click of hands? Oh, beautiful. I can see the hands. I've got to work out where to even look for the hands too. So well done. So if anybody can't hear me at any time, then please just put in a question down the bottom just to say that you're having trouble hearing. Sometimes with the technology that does drop out, and I'll just do another little test. But as I said, if you've got any questions at any time, please use this question box in the panel on the side. This little red arrow here is the one that collapses it for you. So if you have no control panel, or you've accidentally hit that, you just hit it again and it'll bring it back for you. Does anyone have a question right up? If you do, please type it in now. Otherwise, we'll get started. Oh, that button's being a bit beastly on me there. Okay, so here's a little bit about me. For those that don't know me, my name is Lisa Wren, and I'm an accredited practicing dietitian. So I guess a little bit about my journey to how come I got to here. So I started out as a teacher, teaching physical education and maths, and through that time sort of developed quite an interest in health and fitness, and then in food. So then went on to qualify, did a couple of extra years at university and became a dietitian. And of course, coming out of university as a dietitian, basically being told, here, this is the information you need to tell people. And very early worked out that you can tell people whatever you like, but whether or not they implement it is a whole different thing. So I've gained a real appreciation for the fact that we're all autonomous. We all do our things our own way, and nobody really likes to be told what to do. So my hope for you through this webinar is to take this information in, to have a piece of paper by your side, a pen and paper, so that you can start writing out what you are going to be doing, because I'll give you the ideas, but ultimately you're the one that has to do it. So I really want you to come out of this hour, given that we're all really busy and we want to make the most of our time, coming out of this hour with an actual plan of what you need to do in place. So the dietitian part, then the mum part comes in, and so that's a whole lot of new learning as well. So the journey is always ongoing, as you would know. And in 2009, I started my business, which is Body Warfare Nutrition, and I see clients individually, but I also am looking at doing a lot of speaking and training of other health professionals, and I've got a really exciting group situation that I'm really hoping to maximise on working together and incorporating the accountability of a group. So I'll tell you about that at the end of the webinar. If anyone hasn't already linked in with me on either LinkedIn or Facebook, so my Facebook page is Body Warfare Nutrition, please, it would be great to see you joining in any conversations, and certainly starting some conversations there. So that's about me, and I hope that tonight you are going to embrace the information that we're talking about, because it might be a little bit different to what you have done in the past, and I think that's what's going to make it have option of having a different outcome, not the same outcome around Easter. So basically, really, there is so much to do. So I really, really appreciate your time tonight. We are time poor. If you've got kids, you know how much time they take. Running a household, working, looking after your own family as well as the extended family. If you have a partner and any daily stresses. And then we've got to think about health as well. I mean, surely the downtime like Easter is a time for relaxing, isn't it? But here we are now bringing health into that as well. But what I'm wanting to do for you is de-stress this, to not make health just another thing on your to-do list, but to give you an idea how to manage it. So these are the problems that get in our way. But, you know, I think that the bigger problem is the fact that we have our expectations. We expect ourselves to be the perfect parent, partner, son or daughter. You know, the perfect parent. It's always this pressure to make sure that you're doing the right thing. I know my 10-year-old son the other day pulled out in my very messy handbag one of 2 copies of the pamphlet, 101 Ways to Praise Your Children. And he said to me very critically, he said, "Mum, number 2 says smile." It's like, so we have these expectations, but yet so much on our plate, sometimes it's hard to remember even the little things. So we have these things that we really, really put pressure on ourselves. And then we want to be looking good and fit and healthy as well as doing everything else and managing all the things we need to manage. But I want to put this to you, that potentially your expectations are actually the cause of your guilt around not managing food well. And actually that poor management of social situations in the past is really about that pressure that you put on yourself. So tonight we're looking at relieving some of that. And to reassure you that we do not need to be perfect. In fact, you really need to let go the idea of I must be perfect. If I mess up one little thing, the whole thing's messed up. I quite like this picture too. It says, being perfect is stressful, so get out of my face. You know, you know how you feel when you're trying to be so perfect, and yet it is quite stressful. And then that's when it all starts falling in. So let's just kind of go, okay, deep breath, breathe out and go, you know what, we don't have to be perfect. This Easter is not about perfection because nobody is perfect. So you're actually asking yourself by saying, okay, no chocolate, no hot cross buns, or whatever it is that you love. By saying none of that, you are really setting yourself up for failure and a whole lot of stress. So my aim for this webinar is to de-stress you and make you have a great Easter. That's what I'm really hoping for. So let's start with this. This is what I call my Hitchhiker's Guide to Dietary Enlightenment. And you can see here, we've got a scale up the side here of not working, easy work, hard work, the right work, and then no work. So let's start down here in the orange section of not working. Basically, this model is talking about the pathway we may find ourselves on when we're dieting. So the not working is like, this is just not working. I am sick of this. I'm just resigned to the fact that maybe this is me. I can't do everything. I can't look how I need to look. I can't put my health first. I've got too much else on, and I've done it before in the past, and nothing's working. Excuse me. So I guess at this point, the success rate is usually not so great because we're feeling pretty down. Now, you may find yourself there sometimes. You may never have been there, or you may just spend a tiny little bit of time there before you work your way up the scale again. But the word that we use, excuse me, to designate this level of the ladder is resigned. We're accepting of our position. We're resigned to the fact that this may be what it is. I hope you don't spend too much time there and that you can work your way up the scale with me. The easy work, you know what, we're all looking for the quick fix. I know a number of people have said, I'm just waiting for the pill, the one pill that I can take that's going to fix this problem with my health, with my weight. So we're looking for the ab curlers, and we're looking for the fat blasters, and we're looking for the juices and anything that's going to make this work easy. But you know, I guess the word that describes it is opportunistic. I like always looking out for the new thing. Wow, spending a bit of money here and there, that sounds great. But unfortunately, this rate of success, if it worked, then I guess we wouldn't have the incidence of people who are overweight as we do. So the easy work, although it's really tempting, and I can totally get that an easy solution would be beautiful, there really is no easy solution. So as we walk up, we're looking now at the hard work. Now this is the hard work that most of you guys, if you've been on a diet, have actually been doing all along. So, sometimes you have, 50% chance of success here. You're really determined to make it work, but it's hard. I don't know many people who say, yeah, I love going on a diet. I look forward to going on a diet. But this is what diets are about, and I call them the hard work. And the problem is that what we know from research that says, you know what, 2/3 of people who start a diet actually end up heavier than when they started in the first place. That diets don't work. They are actually a predictor of future weight gain. So if you keep on just dieting, I understand, because it's almost the socially accepted thing to do. I guess if you go to work or you're talking amongst your friends, it's like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm on the paleo diet, or I'm on the juice diet, or I'm on the 5 and 2. So it becomes quite socially acceptable to be dieting. However, I want you to understand that it actually really is the hard work. It is hard work. So it's not just you thinking it's hard work. It is hard work. And for your efforts, you don't really get much success. Or if you do get success, it's quite short term. So let's use that determination that you have and push on into doing some of the right work. So the right work is when you are starting to understand that perfection is totally overrated. You don't have to be perfect. The right work is about understanding that diets do not work, that you start to be going, the way I've been doing things in the past hasn't actually worked because of this. And we'll be talking about some of those reasons soon. But the word that might describe this right work is enlightened. It's like, I see. I'm starting to understand. So this is the kind of stuff I try and work with my clients to go, come on, we need to be looking at things other than dieting. We need to be starting to look at realistic plans and things that you can keep up forever, because that is the only way that you will be able to maintain any of the health and weight gains that you get from your efforts of exercise and watching what you're eating. It's about doing the right work, taking the pressure off, giving yourself some freedom to choose. And when you give yourself freedom to choose, that's when you get control. You might be thinking right now, yeah, right, freedom to choose around Easter, I'm going to be eating heaps and heaps of chocolate because that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm like. And that's what I'm kind of talking about. That's the old thoughts that are keeping you doing the hard work. So as we go through, I want you to open your mind and go, okay, is that how I think? Is that my belief? And how can I change that? So we'll talk more about that soon. And then we come up to the top level, and it's no work. Because you know what? Really, when you're looking after yourself and taking responsibility for your health, you are compelled to actually do the right thing, make good decisions, have some self-control. But it's certainly not about banning anything. It's just about making decisions and planning. So the no work part is just a lovely place where there's no guilt or frustration. It is just you are compelled to make good decisions, and it truly does exist. One of my clients described it so beautifully. She said, Lisa, I now understand that I'm doing this for myself, not to myself. And that was a perfect explanation of doing no work. It's not no work in that I don't have to exercise and I don't have to think about my food. It's no work as in it's not hard work. It's just what I do. And I understand it's for myself, so I'm kind of okay with it. And do I have to be perfect? Absolutely not. Because you know what? That 80-20 rule that you may have heard of in the past, and I certainly heard in a parenting course and was absolutely delighted with it, the idea of having to be perfect all the time is stressful. So, 80% is what we're after here. And when you start to, I guess, lower your expectations, but keep them real, this is when you start getting into the enlightening, compelling stuff of right work and no work. And your results also move up with you. So you are more likely to have better health if it's not no work, if you're not down here doing the hard work of on again, off again dieting. So let's have a think about that as I want to move you from doing the hard work at Easter into doing the right work so that you get a sense that it's possible. So this is what no work looks like. What we've got here is the weeds, the needs, and the deeds. So basically, the weeds are our unhelpful thoughts. So if you've got some things in there and some beliefs, and we will talk about what they are and what they might be, they're unhelpful thoughts. They're beliefs that things that are impossible. They're beliefs that you can't change. They're beliefs that, hang on, if I'm allowed to have any chocolate, I'll go crazy. These are the unhelpful weeds that we need to get rid of. The other part here that we've got about no work, when you're not working, you're understanding that these weeds need to go. It's an ongoing process. It's not perfection guaranteed in 1 minute. It's an ongoing process. And then we've got our needs. So you need to be able to say to yourself and acknowledge that the 3 basic needs that we have as human beings, according to a self-determination theory, is this. That's a whole lot of psychological jargon, but it comes down to this. Autonomy. We need to know that we can do this on our own. We need to be in charge of our own destination. Now that's one thing that you do not get on diet. So there's one real reason why they don't work, because you're not doing what you want to be doing. And that is one of our basic needs. Relatedness. That means that you have got a sense that others are feeling the same thing you're feeling. That's why group situations work so really well, because everybody's in the same page. But your sense of relatedness, I guess with diets, is maybe why they do work or why you go back to them, because everybody around you is doing them. Doesn't necessarily make them right, but it does satisfy that need. And the other thing is competence. So we need autonomy, we need relatedness, and we need competence. So we need to know that we're succeeding. Now diets will only give you that 50% of the time. So when you're not working, when you're making health no work, what you understand is I've got to make this plan worthy of me, that I'm making the choices, that I actually do have some support around me, and that I'm actually feeling competent. I'm feeling like I'm kicking goals and I'm making forward progress. So weeds and needs are 2 things that you really get a grip on when you're looking at no work and starting to do the right work. And of course our deeds, these are our actions. And we're going to be focusing on those actions tonight and going, hang on, what do we need to do in order to make sure that we manage Easter really well? So when you're not doing any work around your health, but you're just compelled to do it, you start understanding that planning is really important, and that's what we're looking at today, that you need to be aware, hang on, is that unhelpful thought coming back? Is that a belief there that's going to be holding me back? You need to be aware of those unhelpful things and aware if you are starting to impact on your needs and starting to try and get too rigid. So that's where you're going to lack autonomy, and it's not going to work. And of course, you need resilience, because you need to be able to bounce back. You know, bouncing back is what we all need to do every day, and particularly when you're on the road to moving from going no work around diets to getting onto the right work. We need to bounce back because our old habits will come back. So these are the things you need for no work. So let's consider how this all works for social events now. Now here's the problem. The problem is that we have the same situations coming up. So we have Easter every year. We have Christmas, we have birthday parties, we have other celebrations, we have holidays. So these are the situations that are wonderful. You know, without them life would be really dull. So we have the same situations and we can be grateful for those. But then we have the same thoughts. Oh, I've never actually managed to, really manage this well before. Oh, I'm just the sort of person that when I start one, I just have to eat the rest. So we start these thoughts are coming back in around these situations. So we have the same actions because our thoughts govern our actions. So if you're thinking you're going to eat them all, then you will. And then you get the same outcome. As I'm frustrated, I'm feeling guilty about what I've said I was going to do and I've already messed up. So this is the problem. This is our vicious cycle around social events. So let's see what we can be looking at here about how to enjoy your social events and control your intake. So controlling your food intake sounds like it's going to take a whole lot of effort, but in actual fact, we can work it out tonight. so that you can go away knowing it's not going to be such a great big effort. So in this model, what we have here is we've got our 4 squares where we've got our belief, our hostess, which can be quite a big problem with any social event, the actual event itself, and how we act. So we've got a couple of columns. We've got the stuff that's intrinsic, the stuff that's inside of us and in our control is our beliefs and our actions. And the stuff that's less in our control, the extrinsic stuff, the external, is our hostess and our hostess's behaviour, and the actual event we really have little control over. We have no control over Easter as such. We have no control over the fact that we've been invited to a cocktail party. And I hope you have, because let's work it out. But what we do have over here is we've got 2 ways where we can start to make some inroads and some change so that we can create a different outcome. So we have our perception. We have our perception here of our own beliefs, and we have our perception of our own beliefs around what we have to do for our hostess. And then down here we've got the practicalities. So we can work on our actions and we can start planning the practicalities of the event. We can start looking at the event and saying, right, what is it that we need to actually manage? So we come through here, and let's start at the beliefs part. So we go here, and I've made a list of beliefs, and I would be really happy for you to type in any of your beliefs that you have in your question box. You can type in if you've got something else that you want to, that I've missed on the list. But here are some of the beliefs you may have around Easter and managing chocolate, and also around social events in general. So, because some people may have big feasts that they have around Easter. It really just depends. This is where the event is an external thing. We all have different ones and we have less control over it because we get invited to them. So having to please your hostess, that is a really big problem. And we're going to definitely talk about that in a whole lot of detail around that hostess. But people say, I have to eat because my hostess gets annoyed if I don't. So we'll have a definite talk about that. But that's a belief that's a little unhelpful if you can understand that, because it basically means that you have no choice. And when you have no choice, well, that leads to a little bit of a problem with self-control and a little bit of problem with management. If you have to eat everything on your plate, and again, we grow up with these things and finish everything on your plate, or you're not going to get any dessert unless you finish everything on your plate. So we're definitely taught that you need to eat everything on your plate. And you know what? We generally do. If I can go off on a little tangent here, the French paradox says, you know what, people in France eat quite a lot of high-fatty foods and they generally have alcohol with their meal, and yet they don't have a big issue with overweight statistics. And it's thought that this is a paradox. But what I've sort of come to understand is that the French perhaps stop eating when they're full, whereas we eat everything on our plate. So it's a very different thing. So I want you to start questioning this and going, okay, I only eat everything on my plate because my mum told me to. Now, as an adult, I start to get some choices and I can start to change how I do things as an adult, particularly if they're not helpful. Now, these ones down here, on the last part of the list, you have no self-control when it comes to foods you love. A lot of people say that to me. If it's there, I'll eat it. I can't stop at one. I'm the type of person who, if the biscuit packet's open, I have to eat the whole lot. Now, these are things that are really unhelpful, and I think this is where you have to have an element of trust to go from the hard work to the right work. But let me help you with this. Can you picture this? That you're sitting around a table of people that you know a little bit but not super well. So they're acquaintances, they're not really close friends or family. And there's a plate of biscuits or chocolates, whatever is your food on the table, the food you have problems with controlling is on the table. And there's one for everybody, but there's a couple left over. Now, you tell yourself you have no self-control when it comes to food you love, but there's a plate of food you love on the table, and there's only a couple left, and that's, you know, normally you go, right, I'm having that. But would you, in this situation when you're sitting around a table with people you don't know so well, would you be the one to lean over and have a second one? I want you to be thinking about that, because if you answered, no, I wouldn't, I've got manners, so I was raised polite, I wouldn't be doing that. I don't want other people to think that I have no control. So there is your evidence that you do have self-control when it comes to foods you love. It's only when you're on your own and you don't actually insist upon using the self-control that you actually have no self-control. So I want you to start a new message to yourself, a new belief that actually I do have self-control. I've just chosen not to use it in the past, and that's okay. It's not a blame game. I just want you to be thinking about the fact that, hang on, some of my beliefs may be unhelpful and holding me back here. So start to open your mind up to doing the right work and move away from the diet beliefs of I can't do this and I have to be rigid, I have no control. That does not allow you autonomy, and that does not mean that's going to be sustainable. So our new aim for our social occasions is this. We've got the same situations. I hope that you always get invited to lovely things. But if we start having some different thoughts around it, changing our beliefs, and then we create different actions, and then we have a different outcome. We have an outcome of going, hey, that was cool. I actually was in control of what I ate, and I enjoyed the situation because I was catching up with friends. It was great. That's what we're aiming for here. So the first challenge is to challenge your beliefs. You need to lower your standards. This is this perfection thing again. You don't need to be perfect. Even superheroes don't wear the cape all the time, not 24/7. You don't need to be perfect all the time. So if you love chocolate, then it's important that you say, I can have some chocolate this Easter. Trying not to have chocolate, trying to ban chocolate is going to be the road to disaster and the road to more hard work. So doing the right work is about saying, you know what, I don't have to be perfect all the time. And in fact, if you're going away and it's a really particularly riotous party, then you might lower your standards a whole heap. But I'll let you make that decision, because you could aim for maintaining your weight over that time, or you could go, look, you know what, this is pretty special. I know I'm going to put on a little bit, but I don't want to put on as much as last year. So we do need to be looking at lowering standards, at least to say, let's not expect perfection, because that's not going to happen. And questioning your thoughts. Hang on. Do I really have no self-control? Can I really not manage this? These are the things that they are simply thoughts. Thoughts are not facts. So just because you think them doesn't mean they're right, I hate to tell you. But you know what? That should be good news, because even if someone else is thinking them as well, that still doesn't make them right. So we get to choose how we think. So I would really encourage you to be questioning your thoughts around your own abilities to manage things. Because if you think about all the things you manage in a day, if you manage a household, if you manage to get to work, if you manage to run a family, if you manage to get your kids everywhere they need to go, if you've got kids, you are demonstrating a whole lot of responsibility, a whole lot of accountability, and a whole lot of different skills and strengths. So if you're sitting there saying, no, I can't do this, then think about what you can do and go, maybe I can. If I have a look at how competent I am in everything else, I can transfer a couple of those skills across. So question your thoughts about your own abilities and don't expect perfection. Challenging these beliefs is a really critical first step to doing this right work and managing Easter well. So let's talk about your hostess, because it's quite a challenge sometimes when your hostess is giving you filthy looks or saying, what, don't you like my food? And questioning your ability to choose how much you want and how much you want to eat. This is what I'm calling reverse hospitality. If you have a look at the little picture there, there's one person who's stomping up and down and telling the other what to do, and the other's feeling quite downtrodden. Now, what is the definition of hospitality? In my books, it means that you are looking after the well-being of your guests. And yet, when you say, I have to eat everything because my hostess is going to go balmy, is going to get angry at me, then it's like, hang on, who's the hostess and who's the, what is the result of that? Reverse hospitality is where your hostess is thinking about herself or himself instead of the guests. So can I ask you to now be changing your beliefs and just opening your mind a little bit more to the idea that if you are being forced into something, that's not hospitality and that's not actually being a good hostess. But we can't just leave it at that and go, well, that's so be it. She's a terrible hostess and very rude, but I've still got to see her. Let's get a little bit clever about this and learn how to manage your hostess so that you know how to get out of this situation doing what you want to do, but also keeping your hostess on side. Because your hostess with the difficult mostess might actually be someone in your family that you need to see a lot, or it could be a great friend, or it could be an in-law that you need to see all the time. So you need to know how to assert yourself and your needs as well as making your hostess happy. So let's get clever about this. So it might well be, and I'm guessing if you've got one of these hostesses in your life, you know what they're like. So it's not going to be any surprise for you. But if you do actually come across one of these hostesses, you say, okay, you might word her up beforehand. You might sort of give her a phone call and say, look, you know, I'm just looking at feeling a bit healthier lately. So I'm not going to overeat. So I'm really, really looking forward to coming to your house because you are the best cook. I love it. But I always leave feeling way too full, which is almost uncomfortable. I know you wouldn't want that. So just a little heads up that if I don't really have heaps on my plate, it doesn't mean I don't love your cooking. So you praise them up. Excuse me. It may well be that you're just there on the day saying, oh, I've been looking forward to this meal for such a long time. I'm really hanging out. But I just wanted to give you a heads up. I'm not going to be eating heaps. So please don't push second helpings on me because I'm just trying to feeling like I'm a little bit more in control at the moment and trying not to overeat because it doesn't feel so good when I do that. But let me tell you, you're amazing and I love your cooking. So you can see that we're actually making our hostess feel really good. However, we're saying, I'm not going to be eating as much and please don't pile it on my plate. Because if she or he is not respecting your decision, then you've preempted that already. And if they're not respecting your decision, then maybe you can sort of say, hey, I'm all good. Thank you. It was delightful, but I'm all good. And that they will know because you've already worded them up, it's all okay. I still love you as the hostess with the mostess, but I'm not going to be overeating here. And I want you to be asserting yourself here because this is reverse hospitality. A hostess that forces her guests to eat to make herself feel good, you know what? That's not real hospitality. And I know as a hostess, if I have people leaving stuff on their plate, I don't love it either. It's not a great feeling, but you know what? I'm certainly not going to question them about it, and particularly if they've told me how wonderful I am and that they were just trying to eat less. So it's understandable. I'm not saying I don't feel exactly the same thing as a hostess. However, you need to also be assertive and the hostess needs to be respectful of your decisions. So if you've got a difficult hostess, I would love you to try that. Perhaps you must set it up beforehand. You can't be yelling at her on the day perhaps or as she's trying to dish things up for you. But you could be complimenting her for sure. All right, so let's talk about these practicalities as well. So we've got the event. So I want you to think about the event that you want to manage now. So let's get it practical now and get in here so that you are doing some work to say, all right, what is it that you actually want to manage? And it could be a couple of things. So it might be just the Easter Sunday eggs. It might be the eggs in the cupboard. It might be that you've got a family lunch or you've got a dinner or you're actually going away for Easter. It could be a 3-course meal, a cocktail party. So start to think about exactly what events it is around Easter that you want to manage. Now, if it's literally, I'm just getting a bit scared about the eggs, having all the chocolate eggs around the place, then that's fine too. We can just be looking at managing Easter as a whole. But if you've got specific functions within Easter that you want to be looking at as well, then please be thinking about these as we're talking about the event. So if you're managing the Sunday Easter eggs, it is about saying, okay, how many do I want to have? This is the question, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but if you're having a family lunch, so it's a lunchtime. Now, a lot of people go, oh, you know what, if I'm having a lunch, I'll skip breakfast because I don't want to be overeating and like having a big breakfast and a big lunch. But you know, that's actually not the best way of dealing with things, because if you skip breakfast and don't eat much during the morning or saving room for lunch, you're going to go to lunch starving hungry and you will overeat. You'll eat fast and you'll overeat. You'll have much less control. So the best way to managing a lunch is to make sure that you pretty well eat normally. Have your breakfast. If you have a morning tea, then have a small morning tea. And then when you go to lunch, you'll just be moderately hungry but in control and be able to put your plan in place. The idea of not eating up to it, especially even a dinner, is you'll be ravenous by then and totally overeating. So just be eating normally. You can perhaps be eating less. You certainly don't need to have big breakfasts or big lunches in the lead up to a meal, but you eat normally so that you're managing your hunger levels just normally. And if you're having a big high-fat meal, then you can certainly make sure that you're having a healthy breakfast and lunch. That's fine. But make sure that you do have them. The idea of not eating is really not useful in managing an event. So if you're going away for the weekend, often people say, oh, the whole thing's a mess, the whole thing's going to be terrible. But I go, hang on, what's exactly going to be terrible about it? What, is breakfast going to be terrible? Like, well, no, I can perhaps take some cereal for breakfast. Breakfast won't be terrible. What about lunch? Well, no, we generally just have a sandwich for lunch. So these are things that you can plan to have if you don't already do it with your trip away. Or these are things that you can go, okay, well, no, I can have cereal for brekkie and a sandwich for lunch. Maybe it's just fivesies that are the problem, so that you start to isolate exactly what part of the event or the trip that's actually the problem. Because you can't just say everything, because then it's just overwhelming. We need to really pinpoint and get down to the nitty-gritty of saying, what is it that I exactly have issues with? Same thing with a three-course meal. Eating normally on the way up, you might say, okay, three-course meal. You know what? If it's a three-course meal and you never have a three-course meal, or very rarely, eat the three-course meal. There's no big deal. If it's something that you do often, you might go, look, I might just choose two of them, two of the courses, entree and main, or main and dessert. Or you might just go, no, I'm going to eat really well for the whole 2 weeks leading up and then just go for gold on this three-course meal. It's about how you're going to manage this that we're looking at now. And if it's a cocktail party, so often that's just finger food, they're a bit dangerous, particularly if you go in hungry. So for a cocktail party, I often suggest to people that you actually have a small or very light meal. So you might have a tub of yogurt and a piece of fruit, or a cup of soup and a piece of bread before you go, so that you're not going in starving, because the food in the cocktail parties are really high calorie stuff. And if you're hungry, you're going to eat a lot of it. So we're looking at the practicalities around the event to be going, okay, how am I going to actually manage this? If we're talking about Easter on the whole and just getting a bit scared about chocolate, we will certainly be looking at that when we look at actually what we need to be doing about our actions right now. So when we look at action, what we have to actually be looking at is our competing desires. Like, we have the desire to eat what we like, but we also have the desire to be healthy. So when we create an action around this, we need to actually say, okay, how can I strike a balance between my desire to eat whatever I want, looking at those chocolates going, yep, I want to eat all of those. However, also I want to be feeling good at the other end of Easter. So we have to strike a balance here when we're planning about what we're going to do. It's about creating that balance, and this is where the 80-20 rule comes in. You don't need to be perfect. You can eat chocolate. So be thinking about the balance between our desires. And this is where we get the sustainability. This is where we start doing the right work, when we create that balance for ourselves. So let's have a look and see if I can make this work. So I am going to ask you, what is your biggest issue with food over Easter? So if you can click on one of these things, so either chocolate, hot cross buns, alcohol, or something else. If you're clicking on that, and we'll just see. Well done. We're getting some populations of things here. Well, I'm interested to know what the other is. We've got a few changes. So in the chat box, if you want to write what the other is, that's good. At the moment, what we've got is that 50% are liking chocolate and finding that's the problem. 33% are talking about hot cross buns, and 17% are talking about other. So if you haven't voted, that's totally okay. No one can see anything, I'm assuming, so there's no problems there. So it seems that chocolate is our big issue, and we've got some hot cross bun problems as well, which is, we're all totally delicious, aren't they? So that's what makes Easter so delightful. But we'll start to be getting some ideas around what we can actually be looking at. So I'll close that poll off now. So what we've got is most of us have problems with chocolate, and that's pretty understandable, because certainly as a dietitian, chocolate is certainly the biggest food that people say, you know what, this is, I start eating chocolate and I just can't stop. So we've got chocolate, we've got hot cross buns, and we've got other stuff. And so I want you to keep in mind what your food is that we're talking about here. And it could be more than one thing. It could be chocolate, hot cross buns, and whatever the other stuff is. But let me ask you this. What are the foods that you really, really love? And this is what I just want you to think about now and say, okay, well, I love chocolate, or I love chocolate and hot cross buns, or I love chocolate, hot cross buns, and biscuits. Make a list, or make one thing. The thing that, if you're thinking about Easter, there is no way that you could have a happy Easter if you didn't eat this food. So hopefully you've all got that in your heads now about, oh, this is the food, this is what I call your not negotiable, your non-negotiable food. You go, no, I'm going to be having this. I know it. And I know it, and I'm going to teach you to enjoy it, because I want you to eat that food this Easter comfortably. So keep that. This is your non-negotiable. And if you're writing it down, you could be writing, this is my non-negotiable, chocolate. What foods could you happily go without? So for some people, it's like, oh, I must have chocolate, but hot cross buns, you know what? I could go without them, not a problem. Or alcohol, clearly I'm the only one with issues with alcohol, because nobody else said that was a problem. So what could you happily go without? Well, you're thinking, yeah, you know what, perhaps if you're away, it's like, well, I don't really need bacon and eggs for breakfast, but I really do need chocolate. So I want you to think about the event you're thinking about. I want you to think about your Easter as a whole and be thinking, all right, this is the stuff I cannot do without. I would be unhappy if it wasn't there. And this is the stuff where I'd be like, oh, look, I usually eat it, but only because I've sort of felt like I've stuffed up and can't make it together. So I want you to have almost like two columns or two lists, one that you can't do without and one, yeah, I could do without that. Alrighty. So then we're looking at planning your actions. So when you think about this, let's get into the nitty-gritty. If you're thinking about an event, like a particular part of Easter where you would like to manage, what do you need to do in the lead up to the event? So these are questions I'd really like you to be answering now. What do you need to do in the lead up to the event? Do you need to make sure that you have a normal breakfast and a normal lunch? Do you need to make sure that you have a snack before you go so that you're not starving for the event, depending on which one it is? So if it's just Easter in general, that's totally okay, but it's managing chocolate. But if you've got a particular part of Easter that you're wanting to manage as well, then be thinking about that now. What do you need to do in the lead up to that event? How do I manage it? What do I eat? Am I making sure that I've got some snacks in place so that I don't get too hungry? So that if it comes to 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, on Easter Sunday, and I've got eggs but I'm hungry, do I have to make sure that I've got another snack there so that I don't have to eat only the eggs, that I'm not relying on chocolate for my sustenance only? So it's about this planning. Now this is the real question, this is the critical question really. How much of your favourite food do you actually want to eat? So if you're looking, well, I'm going to use chocolate given that half of us have issues with chocolate, to go, okay, how much chocolate do you really think that you'd go, yep, you know what, if I ate this much chocolate, I would actually feel in control. It would be less than what I'm usually eating, but I reckon I'd feel quite comfortable with that. So it's not none for sure, because this is our non-negotiables. These are the foods that Easter won't be the same without. So how much of it do you want to eat? So let's just think that we're talking about a family dinner, and you've got Auntie Myra's hot cross buns, and you've got someone else's chocolate pudding, and you've got someone else's, savoury that you really love. So which are the things that are negotiable, and which are the things are like, nah, they are must-haves? And in the must-haves, like, how much of those foods, how much chocolate would you be happy eating? You do need to make it realistic, so just that it's usually less than it would be. So for example, it could be, okay, normally I eat a bag of solid chocolate eggs every second day over Easter, and I feel really uncomfortable and not happy with myself. So the new plan or the new idea of my non-negotiable solid chocolate eggs could be, the little tiny ones. You go, all right, if I have 5 of them a day on Saturday and Sunday, that would represent 10 eggs over the 2 days, whereas normally I'm having a packet or 2, then that is going to be a lot less. So you see what I mean? This is less than what you would normally have, but it's an amount that you would feel, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Please don't use my numbers. I'm just pulling these numbers out of the air. I want you, because you might go, 5, that's too many. But think about how many you normally have, or how much you dish up of a food dish that you love. How much do you normally have? Do you have seconds? Do you have everything at the table on offer? And what could you actually have and feel comfortable with? And if alcohol, obviously no one said alcohol, but if it was alcohol that you're going, yep, well, 5s are a bit of a problem. Normally I'd have 3 glasses, but I think I'd probably be happier if I had 1. How many drinks would be appropriate to be having at that time, and how many would you feel happy with, and how many would you feel, nah, I've actually overdone it. So I hope you're populating your paperwork here now, going, okay, these are my favourite non-negotiable foods, and this is how much I actually think I'd like to eat of them. And if anyone wants to actually put in their numbers, I won't read out your name, but I'll just be happily to read out what you actually wanted to put your figures in. If you want to, you certainly don't have to. But this is the critical part. This is the critical part of making this no work, is about 5 minutes of planning before you go. Well, when I say before you go, I mean if it's a dinner event, you obviously have to start thinking at breakfast and go, okay, I need to eat normally today and not do anything silly with my food, eat normal healthy stuff so that I can enjoy this for dinner. And at dinner, I'm going to dish up less of that. I'm going to leave that one off because I don't really need that, and this is how I'm going to feel comfortable. So I would like you to be having that sort of plan in place so that you know exactly what you're going to do each day of Easter or each event of Easter. And you may not have time to do them all now, but certainly, hopefully, you're getting some understanding of what you do need to do. The critical thing is, what are the things I love and how much would I be happy eating? You being happy is the critical part. It's not about if I'd be happy, or it wouldn't be if someone else is happy. It's about how much would you be happy with, given that you want to eat them, but you don't want to overeat them. So we're creating that balance between our desires. Keep in mind, and this is the part of doing the right work, moving into no work. Creating change, you don't need to be perfect. You need to aim for an improvement. You don't want to just keep doing stuff the same, because that's actually not change. So we're aiming for an improvement, but we don't have to be perfect tomorrow. Particularly if you're looking at exercise. I know we're talking about chocolate, but exercise gives a nice example. You might like to be running 5 kilometres, but if you're currently only walking for 15 minutes, it's not going to happen tomorrow or next week. You're aiming for improvement, and the exact same thing can occur around your eating. So it is just about going, okay, whereas you may think you'd like to eat no chocolate, that's not about no work. That's the hard work. So if you're saying no chocolate, that is the hard work. This is where you need to be trusting in this process of moving up to the right work and going, okay, the hard work's not working for me, so let's try some of the right work. I need to allow myself to have some chocolate. If you have a plan, you will be much more likely to carry it out. The thing that's been the problem in the past is that you've just white-knuckled it and gone, oh, I hope I manage my chocolate this Easter. instead of having a plan as to how you're going to manage your chocolate this Easter. Focusing on the action, not the outcome. Not, I don't want to eat chocolate, I can't eat chocolate. That's, I guess, the outcome of the Easter. The action will be, I'm allowed to eat 5 small solid eggs on Saturday and 5 small solid eggs on Sunday. And it could be 2 on Friday and 3 on Monday. Or you could have different numbers for different days, particularly if they're high chocolate days. You know, let's be aiming for improvement, but not perfection. And we're focusing on what we need to do, not what we're not supposed to be doing. We focus on what we do need to be doing. This last little thing, this pre-mortem, is an interesting concept, and it was introduced to me recently at a business conference. And this is where we get a bit down on ourselves, but I think it's actually a really nice process, because then we get to solve the problems. So this pre-mortem as opposed to a post-mortem, so as opposed to us getting back together after Easter and going, okay, what's stuffed up? We get to do it now and go, okay, I would like you to think now, what is going to get in your way? What is going to be the problem with this plan that you've got? What's going to go wrong? Who might make it go wrong? Is it you or is it somebody else? What's going to go wrong? Have a little think about what will go wrong. And if you're anything like me, if you're feeling, okay, this is great, and then what could go wrong? It's like, oh, well, this could go wrong, this could go wrong. Most of it's about what's in your head. Certainly that's what it was like for me. What's in your head is going to be the problem. So what can you say now to make sure that that doesn't happen? So looking at that problem that you've isolated and go, okay, how can I deal with it when it comes up? Because it probably will. I'm sure you're right. It will come up. You will need to look at yourself like that and go, right, this, I knew I was going to say I've got no self-control. What am I going to do when I say that to myself? Have a plan for it. And it could be about self-talk, because often the solution lies in self-talk, to be going, right, I need to be saying to myself, I do have this self-control, and in fact, I'm giving myself the choice here. I'm going to allow myself chocolate, and it's about going, and I like chocolate, but it will be less, and I'm going to be okay here. So you're just looking at reassuring yourself. Often it might well be that you go, okay, I might have a backup plan, so that if I think my plan was too hard, that, gosh, I didn't realize I was going to get this for Easter, that you might have to revise the plan, and that is totally okay too. I'm just thinking, whilst a few things could be, if I get extra eggs for Easter, it's a problem. You know what? Now is the time to actually speak to your friends and loved ones and say, I don't want Easter eggs from you, or you, but you, I want this one, your favourite one. Don't skimp and save on getting nasty chocolate. If you love chocolate, make sure that you are given the one you love. But if you're getting a whole lot of other little eggs from other people on an usually basis, you just head them up and you say, listen, let's not give eggs to each other this year. Let's just get together, because I'm getting my beautiful Lindt chocolate, whatever it is, and I'm going to be enjoying that. So that way, too, that you can manage the amount of chocolate that you get. Because sometimes, you know what, you don't have to be a superhero. As I said earlier, it is very hard to resist the temptation of a whole lot of chocolate. So in this pre-planning stage, if you start saying to people, okay, don't buy me that, don't buy me that, but hey, you buy me this, that makes sure you've got the best chocolate that you want and you're ready for action at that time. So I really want you to think about, what am I going to do when it goes wrong? Because it will, but I want you to have a plan for how you get yourself back on track. Now, if you actually want a little bit more help with this, this is the group situation I was talking to you about before. I've got this new 90-day Accelerator program, and I'm really excited about it because it helps people get from out of that hard work space up into the right work and moving into making it no work. And the reason why it's going to work so well is because it is that Accelerator program. It really is a concentrated effort on your health as we're moving forward, because leaving it a couple of weeks or 2 or 3 weeks between visits, you don't actually get that continuity. And certainly if you don't have a group, you don't get that accountability and that and I guess that relatedness that we were talking about. So this 90-day accelerator is basically you get my product pack, which is the book and the CD and the DVD, and there is also the online program that you get with that as well. But what the extra thing is, and the online program is 7 online modules that really start to talk about the theory of this right work, how you start doing the right work. But the bonus here is that you get the face-to-face group support. So I'm looking at a monthly group where we get together and start talking about the things that we want to do, the things that we need to change, and start learning about the right work. And then in between that month, so you get fortnightly contact here with the group. You get webinar support, so we would meet online so that there is that ongoing support. There would be video messages and information and encouragement, texts and email support that we would have backwards and forwards as well. So it is a really full-on, all-out provided 90-day accelerator program to really just get you on track. I would want to be talking to you beforehand because I don't want, it's going to work for some people and not for others. So there would be about, I want to make sure that that would be the right program for you. But it does provide with that the things that you need for weight loss success, which are basically motivation, knowledge, and accountability, all within that group support as well, working towards doing the right work. So it's actually, it's $9.97 for the 90 days, which makes it about $11 a day. When I was talking about that with someone, it's like, you know what, I reckon that I could actually save people $11 a day in their shopping and the things that they're buying. Because when you're doing the right work and moving to no work, it's actually cheaper. Certainly more time if you get more time, but it's actually cheaper as well. So $9.97 for that 90-day. If anybody has any questions now, we're just coming up to nearly up to 9 o'clock. I just wanted to say thank you very much for your time. I'm very happy to stay and answer anybody's questions. If you are interested in this 90-day accelerator, you can just give me an email, lisa@bodywarfare.com.au. If you've got any questions about it, any follow-up, if anyone has questions now, please let me know. I'll click on this little box here and watch out for any questions. But what I would love is for you to take these last sort of 5 minutes before 9 o'clock and wrap up your plans. I would really like you to solidify those plans and make sure that you know what you're going to be doing coming into Easter. I want you to be enjoying your chocolate, enjoying the amount that you can eat, and that you are in control of that amount you can eat. I promise you, if you set this plan and put it in place, then you will be able to manage Easter and eat your chocolate and have no guilt around it. Remembering that no chocolate is not an option. It's about how much you're going to be happy and comfortable eating. And if one day you eat an amount and you go, oh, I didn't need that much, then the next day you can actually decrease your goal. So you might surprise yourself. In this last couple of minutes, I would just like to say thank you very much again for your time. And if you would like to have any questions, please either email me or type into your box now. But I will let you go and enjoy your evening. Thank you again for your time. And I'll just wait for a couple of minutes in case anybody wants to talk to me. But please send me an email. And I would love to hear how you have actually managed Easter. I'd love to hear your successes. So either email me or on Facebook. Please be in contact, and I hope you have a wonderful Easter and enjoy the rest of your evening. And thanks again for coming. Good night.